Seattle, November 1993. The security guard's hand was already on the kid's shoulder when Kurt Cobain walked around the corner. What happened in the next 8 minutes would remind Kurt why he started making music in the first place. The Paramount Theatre was sold out. 3,000 people were packed inside, waiting for Nirvana to take the stage. Outside, in the rain-soaked alley behind the venue, a skinny kid in a torn Melvin's t-shirt was being escorted toward the street by a security guard twice his size. Kurt wasn't supposed to be out there. He'd stepped outside for air, needing a moment away from the pre-show chaos. But here's what nobody talks about. The moment Kurt saw that security guard grabbing the kid, something in his chest tightened. It wasn't anger. It was recognition. The kid couldn't have been more than 17. Bleached blonde hair hanging in his eyes, jeans with holes that weren't fashionable, just worn through. His sneakers were held together with duct tape, and he was clutching a notebook like it was the only thing that mattered. "Let me go," the kid was saying, his voice cracking. "I just wanted to hear the show from out here. I wasn't trying to sneak in." The security guard wasn't listening. "You can't loiter here. Move along or I'm calling the cops." Kurt stopped walking. His hand was on the backstage door handle, but he didn't turn it. Instead, he heard himself say, "Hey, what's going on?" The security guard turned, recognized Kurt immediately, and his entire demeanor changed. "Mr. Cobain, I'm sorry. This kid was trying to get in without a ticket. I'm just doing my job." Kurt looked at the kid, really looked at him. The kid's eyes were wide, not with the starstruck expression Kurt usually saw, but with something else, desperation mixed with defiance. The same look Kurt used to see in his own reflection when he was sleeping in his car, when he was everything this kid was right now. "How old are you?" Kurt asked. The security guard started to interrupt, but Kurt held up a hand. "I'm asking him." 17, the kid said quietly. "Did you try to sneak in?" The kid's jaw tightened. "No. I knew I couldn't afford a ticket. I just thought maybe if I stood out here, I could hear something through the walls." Kurt felt something shift in his chest, that notebook in the kid's hands. He knew what that was. "What's in the notebook?" The kid looked down, protective. "Nothing, just stuff." "Songs," Kurt said. It wasn't a question. Oh, the kid's eyes snapped up to meet Kurt's. His silence was answer enough. But here's what made Kurt's heart stop. The kid's hands were ink-stained, not casual doodles. These were the hands of someone who wrote constantly, compulsively, the way Kurt did, the way Kurt had since he was 14. What happened next surprised even Kurt. He turned to the security guard. "He's with me." The guard blinked. "What?" "He's on the guest list. I forgot to add his name." Kurt looked at the kid. "What's your name?" The kid stared at Kurt like he'd grown a second head. "Jamie." "Jamie Collins." "Jamie Collins is on my list," Kurt said. "Let him in." The security guard looked between them, clearly not believing it, but also not willing to argue with Kurt Cobain 15 minutes before showtime. He stepped back. "Your call, Mr. Cobain." Kurt gestured toward the backstage door. "Come on." Jamie didn't move. He looked at Kurt with suspicion and disbelief. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I've been you," Kurt said simply, "and nobody helped me. Come on before I change my mind." Inside, the backstage area was chaos. Band members warming up, technicians running cables, management talking into headsets. Kurt led Jamie through it all until they reached a quiet corner near the dressing rooms. "Sit," Kurt said, pointing to a battered couch. Jamie sat, still clutching his notebook. Kurt sat across from him on a road case, lit a cigarette, and studied the kid. "The thing about being famous," Kurt said, "is that people forget you used to be nobody. They don't see the years before." Jamie didn't say anything, but Kurt could see he was listening. "I used to sleep in my car." Now, Kurt continued. "Back in Olympia. Couldn't afford rent, couldn't afford food half the time. Used to park outside venues just like this, hoping I'd hear something through the walls. Nobody ever noticed me." "Why are you telling me this?" Jamie asked. "Because I saw your hands." "The ink stains, I know what that means. You're not just a fan, you're trying to make something, trying to say something that matters." Jamie's grip on the notebook tightened. "Nobody gets it. Everyone thinks it's just noise. My parents think I'm wasting my time. And I'm trying to explain that this is the only thing that feels real. Kurt took a drag from his cigarette. What do you write about? For the first time, Jamie's defensive posture softened. Everything that's wrong, everything that hurts, the fakeness. Or the way people pretend everything's fine when it's falling apart. Kurt felt like he was talking to his younger self. That's exactly what people need to hear. The truth. Not the polished version, the raw, ugly truth. But nobody wants to hear it from me, Jamie said. I'm nobody. Just some kid from SeaTac whose dad left and whose mom works 2 jobs and who doesn't fit anywhere. You think I fit in? Kurt asked. You think any of this feels natural to me? I'm the same kid I always was, just trapped in a different cage now. Jamie looked at Kurt like he was seeing him for the first time. You mean that? Every word. Success didn't fix anything. It made everything more complicated. The music, that's still real. But everything around it, the business, the fame, that's the cage. Then why do you keep doing it? Jamie challenged. Because sometimes I reach one person, one kid who feels as lost as I do. And for that kid, the song means something. That's worth it. Barely, but worth it. They sat in silence. Then Kurt asked, Can I see what you wrote? Jamie hesitated, then slowly opened the notebook. His hands shook as he passed it to Kurt. The pages were filled with lyrics, crossed out and rewritten, marginalia full of chord progressions. Kurt recognized his own process in every mark. Kurt read for several minutes without speaking. Some of it was rough, unformed, but some of it hit him right in the chest. There was a rawness there that reminded Kurt of why he'd started writing in the first place. This kid wasn't trying to sound like anyone else. He was just trying to bleed onto the page. This is good, Kurt said finally, looking up. Not all of it. Some needs work. But this, he pointed to a verse about feeling invisible. This is really good. Jamie's eyes widened. You really think so? I know so. Kurt handed the notebook back. You've got something. Don't let anyone tell you different. Not your parents, not the industry people who'll try to turn you into something marketable. Keep this raw. How? Jamie asked, desperation in his voice. How do I keep going when everything's against me? When I can't afford equipment, can't get anyone to listen? Kurt was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood and walked to his guitar case. He pulled out his backup guitar, a battered Fender Mustang that had been with him since the early days. He walked back and held it out to Jamie. What are you doing? Jamie breathed. Giving you what someone should have given me, Kurt said. A chance. I can't take this. This is yours. I've got others. Better ones. But this one's got history. It's got songs in it, and I think you need it more than I do. Jamie took the guitar with trembling hands. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just promise me something. When you make it, when people start paying attention, remember this feeling. Remember what it was like to be on the outside. And when you see some kid standing in the rain, you help them. Deal? Jamie nodded, tears running down his face. Deal, I promise. There's more, Kurt said. He pulled out his wallet and took out several bills. This is for strings, for a cheap amp, for whatever you need to keep making noise. Kurt, I can't. Yes, you can. Kurt pressed the money into Jamie's hand. I'm not doing this to be nice. I'm doing this because the world needs people who tell the truth. And you've got truth in you. A knock on the door interrupted them. 5 minutes, Mr. Cobain. Kurt looked at Jamie. You want to watch the show from the side of the stage? Jamie could only nod, overwhelmed. What happened next changed both their lives. Kurt brought Jamie on stage during the encore, handed him a guitar, showed him 3 chords, and let him play along to all apologies. Jamie was terrified, made mistakes, but the crowd didn't care. They could feel something real happening. After the show, Kurt scribbled his phone number on paper. If you ever need advice, if you need someone to listen to your stuff, call me, not my management, me directly. Kurt looked Jamie in the eyes. I mean it. Jamie left the Paramount that night with a guitar, $200, and in Kurt Cobain's phone number. But more than that, he left with hope, the belief that maybe his voice mattered. Here's what happened after. Jamie did call Kurt, not right away, but months later when he'd written something he was proud of. Kurt listened, gave feedback, connected him with a producer friend in Seattle. Jamie's band played their first show 6 months later. They weren't famous, they weren't rich, but they were making music that mattered. Kurt never talked publicly about that night. It wasn't his story to tell. But people close to him noticed something changed. He seemed lighter, more connected to why he'd started making music. The thing about that moment in the alley was this. Kurt didn't help Jamie because it would make him look good. Nobody was watching. He helped because he remembered what it felt like to be invisible, to have something to say but no way to say it, to be told your dreams didn't matter. Kurt Cobain spent most of his famous life feeling trapped by expectations, exhausted by the machinery of the industry. But in that alley behind the Paramount Theatre, he got to be the person he'd always wanted someone to be for him. Someone who saw potential in a nobody. Someone who gave a chance instead of a lecture. Jamie Collins never became a household name. His band had moderate success in the Northwest grunge scene, released 2 albums, played hundreds of shows. But that's not what mattered. What mattered was that he kept making music, he kept telling the truth. And whenever he saw some kid who reminded him of himself, struggling and invisible, he remembered his promise. He helped. Years later, after Kurt's death, Jamie was asked in an interview about meeting him. The reporter wanted to know what it was like to meet a legend, to talk to someone so influential. But Jamie corrected them immediately. He wasn't famous when I needed him, Jamie said, his voice firm. He was just a person who remembered what it was like to hurt and who chose to help someone else who was hurting. That's not about fame. That's about humanity. That's about choosing to see someone when the whole world has made them invisible. The interviewer pressed further, asking if Jamie felt starstruck that night. Jamie shook his head. I didn't see a rock star in that alley. I saw someone who understood, someone who looked at me and saw past the torn clothes and the desperation. He saw what I was trying to become, but not what I was in that moment. That's rare. That's everything. The night Kurt Cobain pulled a ticketless kid from the rain wasn't just about kindness. It was about recognition, about seeing yourself in someone else's struggle and choosing to make their path easier than yours was. About using whatever privilege you have, even when you feel powerless, to give someone a chance. Sometimes the most important thing we can do is remember where we came from. Remember what it felt like before anyone knew our name. Remember the hunger, the desperation, the invisibility we felt. And when we see that same look in someone else's eyes, we stop. We help. Kurt Cobain helped Jamie Collins because he saw himself in that kid's ink-stained hands and desperate eyes. But helping Jamie helped Kurt too. And it reminded him that beneath all the fame and pressure and the endless machinery of celebrity, he was still the kid who just wanted to make music that mattered. Still, the person who believed art could save lives because it had saved his. That night in Seattle, in a rain-soaked alley behind a sold-out venue, 2 people who had never met connected over something bigger than music. They connected over feeling invisible, having something important to say, but no one willing to listen, being told their dreams were worthless. And in that connection, both found what they'd been missing. Jamie found hope. Kurt found purpose again. This is the true story of how one simple act of recognition changed 2 lives forever.